I will be the moderator and stepping out of the way to let these people talk. While we wait, I'm going to play a little audio from Alex Gladstein's latest video. So sit tight. And also, please do us a favor, click that plus sign at the bottom right and invite any friends, family, acquaintances, anybody you know to the room who might be interested in this talk, folks interested in Bitcoin, folks interested in emerging markets, living in emerging markets, anyone who might benefit from this chat. Please do that. And also, if you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, click on the Cafe Bitcoin icon at the top left. You can join the club. You'll get notified of all these events that we're doing. We have events in different languages, in Portuguese, in Spanish, in French, in German, soon in Arabic. We're hopefully going to be setting up Bitcoin Africa as well to talk about Bitcoin in Africa, among other things. And we do beginner Bitcoin Q&A twice a week as well, among other events. Oh, and also the Lightning Lab on Wednesdays, which is really, really exciting. So I'm going to play this audio and then ping everyone to join us into the room, and we'll get started in just a few.
Bitcoin has won over some of America's best-known billionaires, and institutions worldwide are treating it as a serious financial asset. But price is only one part of the story. Whether they know it or not, people who buy Bitcoin are strengthening a tool for protecting human rights. This still relatively new form of electronic money is censorship-resistant, seizure-resistant, borderless, permissionless, pseudonymous, programmable, and peer-to-peer. In Bitcoin, transactions don't go through banks or financial intermediaries. They travel directly from one person to another. Payment processing is done not by a regulated company like Visa or MasterCard, but by a decentralized global software network. Storage is handled not by a bank, but by the users themselves. Bitcoin issuance isn't determined by central bankers. The currency's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, set it to have an ultimate limit of 21 million. No one can ever print more. Bitcoin transactions can't be stopped, and you don't need to reveal your name or address or telephone number to participate. You just need internet access. In 2017, the economist Paul Krugman described Bitcoin as some fancy technological thing that nobody really understands. There's been no demonstration yet that it actually is helpful in conducting economic transactions. There's no anchor for its value. Krugman lives in a sheltered environment in a liberal democracy with constitutional protections. His native currency is globally dominant and relatively stable. It's easy for him to open a bank account, to use a mobile app to pay bills, or to grow his wealth by investing in real estate or stocks. But most people don't have the same privilege. 4.2 billion live under authoritarian regimes that use money as a tool for surveillance and state control. Their currency is often debased, and they are for the most part cut off from the international system that Krugman enjoys. For them, saving and transacting outside the government's purview isn't shady business, it's a way to preserve their freedoms. In China, if you type or utter one wrong word, the Communist Party might eliminate your financial services. This devastating outcome creates a chilling effect for dissidents and creative minds who are forced to use the country's increasingly centralized digital autonomy. In Hong Kong or Russia, donors to human rights organizations can get their bank accounts suspended and funds seized. Over the past few months in Belarus and Nigeria, nationwide protests have broken out against tyranny and corruption. In both places, activists raising money to support the democracy movement have had their bank accounts frozen. And as we saw in Burma just a few days ago, the military shut down the banking system during their latest coup and turned off the ATMs. For activists living under state repression, Bitcoin provides a way to preserve their money in cyberspace, locked away by encryption, safe from devaluation, in a network that has never been hacked. For them, it's digital cash and digital gold rolled into one. And in Cuba, Nigeria, China, Pakistan, Venezuela, Russia, Turkey, Argentina, Palestine, Zimbabwe, and elsewhere, Bitcoin is catching on and helping people escape tyranny and currency collapse. In the past few months, Belarusian activists have used Bitcoin to defy the regime by sending more than $3 million of unstoppable money directly to striking workers, who then convert it locally to rubles in peer-to-peer marketplaces to feed their families as they protest the country's dictatorship. In October, a feminist coalition in Nigeria raised the equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars in Bitcoin to buy gas masks and protest equipment as activist bank accounts were being turned on and off. In Russia, the politician and activist Alexei Navalny has raised millions in Bitcoin in opposition to Vladimir Putin, who has strict control over the traditional financial system. Putin can do a lot of things, but he can't freeze a Bitcoin account. In Iran and Palestine and Cuba, citizens are increasingly able to escape foreign restrictions on their financial rights, thanks to Bitcoin. In these places, individuals are dealing with sanctions or embargoes placed on them because of the misdeeds of their corrupt rulers. Bitcoin gives them a lifeline for earning income or receiving remittances from abroad. Some Venezuelans, having watched their country's currency evaporate due to hyperinflation, are converting their time and energy and family resources to Bitcoin's digital format and then escaping. With their savings secured by a password that can be stored on a flash drive, phone, or even memorized, they've started new lives in other countries, taking advantage of a technology that refugees throughout history could only dream about. The citizens of democracies also face financial controls, deplatforming, and an ever-expanding surveillance state. But those lucky enough to live in open societies can vote, sue, protest, and write, and those methods might allow them to protect their financial freedom and privacy. The billions who live under authoritarian governments don't have the same options. Unlike democracy, Bitcoin is universally available. You don't need to have a particular passport or bank card or voting status to use it. No government can turn off your Bitcoin if it's threatened by your ideas. We are in the middle of a great digital transformation, a time when cash, one of the last bastions of privacy and freedom, is disappearing. People are increasingly relying on easily surveilled apps like Apple Pay, Alipay, and perhaps soon central bank digital currencies as their primary medium of exchange. Bitcoin provides an alternative to our increasingly centralized financial system. It gives any activist or journalist a way to raise funds without censorship, a way to save despite the corrosive impact of excessive money printing, and a way to teleport value without permission. Bitcoin wasn't as powerful 5 years ago, before it had global liquidity. But today, exchanges have popped up in every region. Daily trading volume exceeds that of popular stocks like Apple, and peer-to-peer marketplaces like Paxful and local Bitcoins have extended their reach, enabling users to sell Bitcoin for local currency almost anywhere in the world. Maybe you don't need Bitcoin, and maybe you don't understand Bitcoin, and maybe PayPal, Venmo, or your bank account serve your needs just fine. But don't write off Bitcoin as simply a vehicle for financial speculation. For millions of people around the world, it's an escape hatch from tyranny, and nothing less than freedom money.
All right, everyone. As you can probably tell, I am not Alex Gladstein, but and he couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately. But I wanted him to be here in spirit, and I love the audio from that video so much. I thought it was worth playing. If you're just joining the room, welcome. This is Bitcoin in Emerging Markets. We've got some absolute rock stars up on the stage tonight. I am just going to be facilitating this conversation and letting everyone up here share what they're working on and what they're interested in terms of Bitcoin and emerging markets. I actually just noticed that Javier is in the audience. Javier, are you still here? Do you want to join us? Where are you, buddy? Anyway, I'll find him later. Welcome, everybody. How's everyone doing tonight?
Feeling great. Hey, Brecky, doing well.
Glad to have everyone on here. Where do we start with this conversation? There's a lot to talk about.
By the way, hey everybody, do we have anybody from Bitcoin Beach, or did we invite them? Because I absolutely love what they're doing. Brecky, do you know if they're around at all?
I don't, but if you want to ping them into the room, please do. We can definitely bring them up.
Okay, I'll see if I can find them. Cool.
So let me introduce who we have up on stage then. The person just talking was Elizabeth Stark. You probably know her from Lightning Labs. We've got Ray from Paxful, Lucas from Paxful. We have Bernard. Bernard is the founder of BitNob, which is a Bitcoin on-ramp in Nigeria. And then we have Matt Ahlborg, who his website is usefultulips.org, I believe. And he's done some really amazing analysis of what's going on with things like Paxful. So maybe everyone could go around and kind of introduce themselves and kind of talk a little bit about what they're up to. And then we'll see where the conversation goes. Matt, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, so glad to be here with everybody. Basically, I've just been in Bitcoin for 7 or so years, and the part of Bitcoin that I'm most interested in are peer-to-peer markets and how they kind of attract a lot of developing country users. I think that peer-to-peer exchanges are where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, in terms of a lot of the promises that Bitcoin is supposedly making. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. I look at the data from local Bitcoins, Paxful. I also consult for BitRefill currently. And I interview a lot of people in developing markets who use Bitcoin on a day-to-day to solve actual problems that they have in their life.
Ray, can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to, and maybe give people a sort of a top-down, high-level version of what Paxful is and what Paxful does for those who don't know?
Sure. My name is Ray Youssef. I'm a New Yorker, but I was born in Egypt, came to New York for the promise of a better life. Serial entrepreneur, started Paxful about 5 years. So, 5.5 years ago with my co-founder. We had some really rough times, but we started Paxful because we thought Bitcoin could actually help the little guy. And that's been our mission from day one, to help those that need help the most and places that others won't go. And that's what we've been doing. So about 4.5 years ago, we went to Africa, and it's after seeing the immense demand there, for financial services, because of all the problems and restrictions that people there have, and seeing the immense amounts of talent. Natural resources of Africa are great, but most of them are actually in the heads and hearts of its young people. And seeing all that, and we decided, and it became clear that Africa would lead the way. Like, there's no place in the world that needs Bitcoin more than Africa. And we said that 5 years ago. Everyone thought we were crazy. They thought, Africans aren't going to figure Bitcoin out. They don't really make $2 a day, blah, blah, blah. They didn't believe in it. We did. And now Africa is leading Bitcoin adoption globally. It's a pretty amazing reversal. And what's happened in Nigeria, I'm not sure if people are familiar with what went down over there, but just over a week ago, the Central Bank of Nigeria forbid any of its banks from doing business with cryptocurrency exchanges. And the Senate of Nigeria came out and said right on Twitter that, hey, Bitcoin has made our currency and our banking system nearly worthless. That's a very telling statement right there. So Bitcoin hasn't just succeeded as a store of value in Africa's biggest economy, but it's actually usurped the banking network as a means of exchange and a settlement. That is absolutely massive. It shows us that what is going to happen in the future in other economies. So the biggest economy in Africa has now been officially disrupted on a geopolitical national level by Bitcoin. What else is next? Where else will this happen? So it's absolutely immense event. I think it's the biggest event ever in crypto history, and we should treat it with that kind of gravity. So I will be going in March to Nigeria. Nigeria is Paxful's biggest market. Paxful is the biggest cryptocurrency exchange marketplace in all of Africa, actually. And that's because we were there from the very beginning. So just to give you guys a bit of history on what happened in the story of Nigeria, how Nigeria came to lead global cryptocurrency adoption. When we were there about 5 years ago, the price of Bitcoin was 50% over market price. And that's because there was absolutely no Bitcoin in the country, right? So the problem we had to solve to create this vibrant, cryptocurrency economy in Nigeria and Africa was we had to get Bitcoin into that country, meaning we had to give people a way to pay for it. It's notoriously difficult to get money out of Nigeria for many reasons. So we had to find a way to get money in. Minimum order for cacao beans, their top export is $10 million. So that didn't work out. So what we had to do is we had to leverage the immense hustle and business acumen of the Nigerian people while giving them a digital asset they could import into the country and then sell somehow for Bitcoin. And then we did that. We settled on gift cards. We showed them how to get gift cards and how to take gift cards and sell them. We connected them to Chinese gamers on Paxful. This trade route of Nigeria to China with gift cards, anywhere from $50 to $100 million a week goes to this trade route. And that's been happening for the past 4.5 years. And that's what got the first Bitcoin into Nigeria. And then from there, it flooded out to all of Africa. So once we showed Nigeria, this was originally meant just to be a way to onboard unbanked people's gift cards, but we found a way to use it to onboard an entirely underbanked country. And once the Nigerians, figured this out, they began to hack gift cards for nearly everything. Matt Arlong has written a great article why Paxful is the most important Bitcoin company you've probably never heard of. And he dives very deep into the use cases, and he gives exact examples as well. It's a highly recommended article to read. Matt is one of the best researchers out there. I think I'll stop talking now and open up the floor to everyone else.
Thanks, Ray. So I was hoping Bernard could shed a little bit more light on what's happening in Nigeria, and then maybe we can go to Matt to talk more about his research.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. Hello, everyone. My name is Bernard from Nigeria, and running bitnob.com. So what we're doing at bitnob is allowing people to dollar cost average with Bitcoin from as little as $1. So we're doing this because we, personally have been in Bitcoin since 2013, and I've experienced, a lot of capital controls. I've seen how our currency has been, losing a lot of value over the years. And I've used Bitcoin in so many ways to receive payments abroad, remittances, and pay for things online when I couldn't pay with my card. And it just kind of dawned on me that, look, we need to make it possible for everyone in Nigeria and Africa as a whole to be able to, have access to Bitcoin when they want to, and as long as they make that decision to do that. And this is noticing that for a lot of people, they always think about the fact that, I have to eat, I have to, solve a lot of personal problems before I can have some money to put aside for Bitcoin, and, how much do I need to put aside for Bitcoin? And we just thought, look, let's just make it possible for them to do this, even if it's with $1. If, they can afford to just keep $1 aside to just get into Bitcoin, then we should be able to make this happen for them. And that's what we've been doing. So yeah, I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about creating a lot of more Bitcoiners all around Africa. So just to set, some light on the central bank regulation, the circular released by the central bank on the 5th of February, forbidding all banks and financial institutions from, dealing with cryptocurrency companies, as Ray said earlier, mentioned earlier. So this is something that, I think the first time the Central Bank of Nigeria said something about cryptocurrencies was sometime in, I think, 2017.
Ooh, Bernard.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you for a sec. Can you backpedal about a sentence or two?
Okay, yeah. So the first time the Central Bank of Nigeria, said anything about Bitcoin that I can recall, I have on record, is sometime in 2017, where it was kind of, look, we're advising you as banks not to deal with cryptocurrency companies, but if you have to do that, then you have to ensure that these companies do a lot of KYC, have AML processes, and basically they do what the traditional fintechs or financial institutions are already doing when it comes to protecting users. Now, that was more like some kind of guidance or an advisory, right? And then putting out a disclaimer to say, hey, cryptocurrencies are legal tender in Nigeria, so if you as an individual is dealing with them, then it's kind of at your own risk. Now, sometime in 2018, there was something similar, but there was no express, ban to say, don't do this, like, don't actually engage with cryptocurrency. So the payment processors like Paystack, so Paystack is like Stripe, Paystack and Flutterwave, they're the two biggest payment processors in Nigeria. Kind of, just opened up to crypto companies and just let them, on-ramp, serve as an on-ramp and off-ramp for fiat for these crypto companies. Now, as a crypto company, you can open a bank account in Nigeria and manage, have your fiat domiciled in Nigeria. Now, the most recent circular was kind of saying, hey, we've warned you before, we've actually asked you not to deal with these crypto companies before, which is not true. It was just kind of a guidance, as I mentioned earlier. but then their stance is they've actually said that they shouldn't even attempt it, which was kind of like it was just a mess, right? And then they issued a rejoinder after that to basically explain their points. And if you read that press release after the whole thing, it's like an angry kid who didn't even understand what they were talking about. The way we think about it, maybe someone up there is just trying to gain promotion or something like that, and it's just writing. So part of the circular was, hey, look, cryptocurrencies use cryptography, and when someone is trying to do something with cryptography, then they're trying to do something that is illegal. They're trying to hide something. So it was just, and citing examples of countries like China and other countries that have a hard stance on cryptocurrencies. Of course, without mentioning what other countries like the US and the UK and Japan and the rest are doing regarding cryptocurrencies. Kind of just cherry picking the ones that were having backward regulations when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So it was that bad, and after the news came out, bank accounts were shut down. Even individuals who actually used their bank accounts to transact, on crypto exchanges, had their bank accounts, just shut down. They were not even giving their funds. Like, you just wake up and you can't even access your own account. So at first I was just hearing stories. I was just seeing people posting on social media. I didn't know anyone personal until I think a few days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, and that some of our customers kind of reached out and were, telling me that this is what happened. They can't access their bank accounts. They have their funds locked up. Some of them went to the bank to get their monies to basically say, hey, look, okay, you've closed this bank account. Let me have my monies, and then they were threatened with arrests. And, when you get threatened, that you'll be arrested in the bank, you just kind of want to just leave, because Nigeria is not a place where you want to live, be at the mercy of, of law enforcement. So it's been crazy. But on the flip side, I think the silver lining is for the first time, people have been, a lot of people have been against, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in general back in the day. But this time it's kind of, everyone is like, hey, look, all of you building on crypto, all of you building crypto exchanges and whatnot, look, we need you guys to find a way out. We need, we don't like what the central bank is doing. Like, we're behind you guys. It's like you were getting messages of encouragement all around. People were not really panicking on our platform, for example. So I think when it happened, I was expecting a lot of people to sell. But on the contrary, I noticed that a lot of people were trying to still top up their accounts and buy more Bitcoin. So it's kind of, hey, how can what's the best way to kind of make a deposit and fund my account? And yeah, it's been that interesting. And from what I know is a lot of exchanges are kind of just pivoting into, having a P2P kind of play, like what Paxful does, that just helps them to be immune to things like this. So yeah, it's been interesting. I'll just stop here, and then I know Ray raised a lot of important points that I would love to talk about later, but let me just stop here for now.
Bernard, I can hear the tiredness in your voice of the last 2 weeks, and also for anyone interested, it's 3:13, 3:20 in Lagos right now. So thank you for staying up for us. We appreciate it.
It's all right. Thanks.
Hey, I have a question, or a couple of questions for Bernard, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so nice to meet you, Bernard. With this declaration by the bank, I think 2 weeks ago now, to my knowledge, the way it went down was that on the day of the declaration, quite a few companies lost their banking connections. I believe Bundle, which is a Nigerian company that allows people to buy crypto, buy coins, they lost their banking connections. My question is, did you also lose your banking connection? And then secondly, I saw that I think Bitcoin's got their connection back. And so my second question to you is, have you gotten your connection back? And so what is the status currently? And yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Matt. Glad to connect as well. Yeah, so regarding banking connections, okay, so I don't know how to put this, but we didn't immediately lose. So it's kind of for beating up, we had a model where we were not operating bank accounts in Nigeria. So kind of the moment we receive fiat, it's kind of moved into Bitcoin the very same day, right? Either Bitcoin or stable coins the very same day. So we just had kind of like local partnerships. So there was really no way for the central bank or anyone to kind of just pinpoint and say, hey, this is the account that Bitcoin is running on, kind of. Yeah, so it's one of those fail safes that you just have around just in case these people decide to do what we say when they decide to move mad in Nigeria. So that's how it's kind of worked for us. The only thing that we just lost was kind of connection to Paystack, which was our payment processor. And even that, it wasn't like it was actually locked. We just complied and just took it out so that and just disconnected so we don't put them in trouble. I mean, they've been really helpful to us and we just didn't want to put them in trouble as well. So we just kind of cut our connections as well, and then had a couple of chats with our users to explain our position. Regarding Bitcoins, Bitcoins doesn't operate any bank accounts in Nigeria anymore. They didn't actually like get their banking connections. So Bitcoins originally started as a P2P marketplace, and I think they just kind of did some work. So there's this company called I think Mono. I think so. They kind of like played, and yeah. So Bitcoin just did a way. It just basically did a peer-to-peer model where when I transfer the money to your bank account, then they can kind of just automatically look up your bank transactions and see if that money actually came in and do it. And I'm aware that they're adding other payments methods. So they're just kind of fully back to the peer-to-peer model.
Okay, yeah, so just to reinforce my understanding, so Bitcoins was kind of always a peer-to-peer model. And for the people in the audience, peer-to-peer means that the company itself may not have an official, corporate bank account with a bank. It's more of a model that they provide a platform where individuals can come and agree to trade crypto for fiat. And essentially, they just simply supervise such a transaction. So yeah, thanks for the update. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Matt.
I wanted to welcome some newcomers up to the stage. We have Javier, who's a good friend of mine from Venezuela, lives in Caracas, and founded a meetup group down there called Satoshi in Venezuela. And then we also have Bitcoin Beach. Elizabeth, maybe you want to give a little intro for them? Or they can intro themselves. They're here.
Sure. Yeah, I know you guys on Twitter, but I'm a big fan of everything that's been going on Bitcoin Beach. My understanding is you're this community in El Salvador that is running a somewhat circular Bitcoin economy and have a lot of engagement. So do you want to tell us a little bit more?
Well, you're muted there. You might not know it. They're having too much fun down on the beach.
Sorry, I figured out how to unmute myself here.
No worries.
Yeah, we about a year and a half ago, we started the circular Bitcoin economy here in El Zonte. It's a coastal surf town in El Salvador. and we had a donor that was willing to put a large amount of Bitcoin behind basically starting a economy where Bitcoin was being used in real transactional ways. And right now we have probably 500 families in the community that are using Bitcoin on a regular basis. We have about 35 businesses that are accepting Bitcoin. So probably about half the businesses in the community accept Bitcoin, and probably 80% of the people who live in the community use Bitcoin at least once a month. A lot of them are transacting daily in Bitcoin. We run everything on the Lightning Network. There's probably about 100 people in the community that are being paid in Bitcoin also. So everything they earn is in Bitcoin. And then we also have a number of programs for the students, everyone from kind of grade school up through university, where they can earn stipends that are paid in Bitcoin for getting good grades and to assist in scholarships for college and that sort of thing. And so, that's kind of just a brief overview.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Javier, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about Satoshi in Venezuela, maybe?
Okay, thanks a lot, Bretty. I'm happy to be with you guys here talking about Bitcoin. Satoshi in Venezuela is an educational project focused in Bitcoin here in Venezuela. We, before the pandemic started, we used it to make in real life meetups in different cities in the country, trying to understand how Bitcoin could be used in those other cities among Caracas, because I'm based here in Caracas. After the pandemic, we migrated to YouTube channel to try to share the information that we find that is useful to the people that is here in Venezuela that could use Bitcoin, but maybe don't know even how to set a wallet or something like that. We can, or we are sharing videos to help them to understand those things and also the economic and monetary part of Bitcoin. That is, I think that is the key point around how Bitcoin could be useful here in Venezuela, because at the destruction of the economy, at the struggle of the people trying to survive of that destruction, we have a kind of fight of different currencies. That we have the dollar, of course. We have kind of de facto dollarization right now, and Bitcoin is among the many options that are competing. But as it is very liquid, it could help you if you are a bankless guy in other country, but you want to send some money to your mama. So we are trying to help people to take advantage of this tool before the regime take it, because the regime is mining Bitcoin, they are trading Bitcoin, they are paying things to other countries like Turkey with Bitcoin. So we are trying to help the people to take the tool and use it.
I think we lost you a little bit there, Javier.
Okay.
I think we got most of it. I think just the last word or two cut off. We have one other person who hasn't said a word yet. We've got Lucas up here, also from Paxful. If I remember correctly, the idea for this talk came from Lucas. So Lucas, how are you doing tonight?
Hi guys. Yeah, the idea came from me, but I think we have a lot of speakers here that can bring a lot more value than I would. I work for Paxful here from Brazil. I help the Latin America team to build the community, the P2P community here in Brazil and Latam. But I think I'm gonna be more listening to you guys and maybe making some questions. The situation in Brazil is a lot less interesting than Nigeria or Africa as a whole, or the rest of Latam. Here in Brazil, we have a more kind of stable situation, so the Bitcoin fees is not that much understandable as it is in some other countries. But we are our community is growing, and we're gonna teach them. We need to educate people about money and about inflation, about Bitcoin, for them to get to know the importance of Bitcoin. But a lot of good stories here. I think I'm going to be more listening here.
Exactly. You're going to help me moderate, Lucas. That's what I was getting at. So here's what I'm thinking. We've got some great folks up on stage, and I'd love to hear some questions back and forth between some of these folks who haven't necessarily, spoken before, but whose Bitcoin lives intertwine in some ways, and then maybe we can open it up to questions from the audience in a little bit.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I have some thoughts and questions. So for those that don't know about my work, I'm CEO, co-founder of a company called Lightning Labs, and we're building infrastructure for the Lightning Network, the layer 2 technology on top of Bitcoin that makes transactions faster, cheaper, and more scalable. It's really exciting to hear about the stuff that Paxful has been working on, Bitcoin Beach. But right now there's been a narrative around this Bitcoin as digital gold, right? And I think a lot of the use cases we're talking about, be it cross-border payments or circular economies, where people are, paying in Bitcoin, earning in Bitcoin, with Bernard, with the GCA type stuff, it's not really, it's the monetary network and digital money, and that's what I'm really passionate about. And one of my big goals right now is working on bringing Bitcoin to the next billion people, and emerging markets are just such a key portion of that. But I want to hear from people, given that we've seen a recent price spike in Bitcoin, like are things changing in terms of usage? Like Ray from Paxful, Bitcoin Beach, Bernard, Matt, I know you're tracking a lot of this. Like, what effects have we seen lately, given that this digital gold narrative has pushed Bitcoin up? A lot of broader macro trends as well in terms of the price. But are we seeing an increased usage as well in terms of just general kind of payments use cases, transactional use cases, Bitcoin, sending and receiving for value, things like that?
I've got some insight to share there, Elizabeth. So people understand about 50% of the trades that happen on Paxful still happen with gift cards. Gift cards are the best way to onboard the underbanked and the unbanked, especially in the emerging world, because it's a digital asset that people can, import from anywhere. So when the price of Bitcoin spikes up really high, what we see is that peer-to-peer volume actually suffers a little bit. And if you get into the mind of the people who are buying the Bitcoin, say, for example, the gift card holders, like, the price of Bitcoin is $50,000. I'm going to hold on to my $1,000 Amazon gift card and sell it when the price goes down so I get more Bitcoin for my money. And that's basically it. The price of when the bear market happened and everything collapsed, the volumes of Paxful continued to rise steadily throughout the entire thing. And the same goes for all of our peer-to-peer competitors like local Bitcoins, etc. So peer-to-peer volume has a very, very different graphing, like volume chart than centralized exchanges. It continues to go up. It continues to be strong to a bear market, and extreme bull markets tend to retard it a little bit.
So that's what I thought. So yeah, really interesting to hear. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Ray specifically, what about the on-chain fees? What impact are they having on your users? I know some of your users don't do any on-chain transactions. They simply, use the platform, and which is once they're on the platform, it's just a centralized database, right? But how have on-chain fees affected your business? Are you losing customers because these fees are $5 a transaction?
Yeah, on-chain fees, extremely high Bitcoin fees, extremely high fees for sending Tether. They hurt people, especially in the emerging world. No one wants to pay $20 to send out $10 worth of Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense, right? So what we see is people starting to go internally. The Paxful internal network and volume starts to spike up tremendously. People start turning to fiat. Actually, all right, instead of sending my Bitcoin to this guy, maybe I'll just cash it out on Paxful and have it sent directly to his bank account. It'll be cheaper. Ironic, right? But it should keep us on our toes in crypto. As valuable as what we've built is, people, especially in the emerging world, they're not in love with the technology like some of us are. They're going to default to their common sense. And if fiat is cheaper and easier to use for them in that sense, they'll go back to that. So we should be cognizant of that.
I totally agree. And at the end of the day, I see so much of this broader industry creating what I consider to be Rube Goldberg machines. And I'm like, what problem is it solving and who needs this? And I'm passionate about solving real problems for real users. And people aren't just going to adopt something because, it's new and shiny. It has to actually solve a problem for them. And to me, necessity is not only the mother of invention, but it's actually the mother of adoption. This has to be technology that people need and will be able to use.
Yeah, and so everyone gets it. Elizabeth is one of the people I respect most in this scene, but she's not only an uber nerd like the rest of us, but she really, really gets it on a very human level. And that's vitally important.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. What about Bitcoin Beach or Javier? Have you guys seen anything in terms of the price spike and how that's affected behavior?
We haven't seen a big impact from it. The fact that people are earning in Bitcoin and kind of living their lives in Bitcoin, I mean, it's overall just beneficial, as encourages them to maybe save more, but they're still just as willing to spend it because that's what they're transacting life in. And because everything we're doing is on the Lightning Network, the fees haven't impacted it at all. And I think the whole narrative of digital gold mostly comes from the developed world, where they have a banking system that works very efficiently and everybody has access. Because in a lot of the developing world, Bitcoin really does solve real world problems. And just one example to give you guys, we had a medium-sized construction company recently just convert over to paying all their employees in Bitcoin. They have about 40 employees. And they said that they used to have to give their employees a half day on Friday so that they could take their checks, take the bus 2 hours into the capital city, wait in line and cash their checks. And they were basically losing a half a day every week in order to pay them. And just by converting them over to Bitcoin, they save all that money, they save the hassle of going to the bank, and the company's able to be more productive. And so we're seeing people, even those who do have bank accounts, stop using their bank accounts because they realize, why go to the bank, wait in line, put my money in the bank just to have to go back a week later and pull my money out of the bank when I can put it into my Bitcoin wallet and use it at the local stores when I need to. If I need to convert to fiat, there's always people looking to buy Bitcoin that I can sell to at market price or maybe even higher than market. And so we're seeing it have a real practical impact on people's lives.
So I have a question for Bitcoin Beach. What about the volatility of Bitcoin? I mean, I cannot believe that people would, walk around with a Bitcoin wallet and accept, a 20% volatility in a given week. And then I have a question for Elizabeth after regarding this as well.
So as we onboard people, as people, start to use Bitcoin in the initial stages, we'll usually walk alongside them and tell them, hey, if there's any big drawdowns, we'll make that up. And so just till they get their feet under them and kind of can navigate the volatility. Obviously we're in an up market, and so it's a lot easier to do that. And, a year from now, it might be a different situation. But we found that people actually adopt to the volatility pretty quickly. And yeah, there's times where it goes down, but they also realize over time it generally is going up. And so if they have a big payment that they're going to need to make, they know to convert that to fiat ahead of time if it's something that, that will be really risky for them if they don't have that done. But in general, for their day-to-day expenses, it really doesn't make that big of a difference.
Okay. My question for Elizabeth was, so Lightning Network offers like an instantness and a freeness that, Bitcoin does not offer, but it still suffers the volatility problem. So my question is I've heard some things about this, but can you put stable coins on Lightning? As far as I understand, you can put, I've heard people are going to try to put USDT on Lightning, which would be a supposedly fiat-backed stable coin. But then there's also other possibilities where you could have a purely Bitcoin-backed stable coin somehow. Can you speak to that, or what team is working on that, and what do you know about that possibility?
Yeah, so at Lightning Labs, we are focused on Bitcoin itself, and we can definitely debate the various merits of a variety of stable coins, or the current fiat system as it stands. And by the way, I thought it was interesting how there was a mention previously of, yes, there's a stable banking environment in places like the US, but it takes me, 2 to 3 days, sometimes longer, to send a payment in so many contexts, because in the US, we actually do not have a modern system in so many ways. But that said, yeah, you can do that. So there's this cool technology called discrete log contracts, originally created by a researcher and co-author of the Lightning Network paper, Taz Dreijer, over at MIT. There's a company called Schaback that's been working on those on-chain and researching them on top of Lightning. We at Lightning Labs have done a lot of internal research around that. There are quite a few ways to have a stable balance that is Bitcoin-backed, where you would actually represent the fiat value. The way that would work, it's a little bit DeFi-esque. We call it LiFi in the Lightning World, Lightning Finance. Somebody would have to take the other side of that contract, and then there is an oracle involved. The discrete log contract tech makes it such that you don't actually know which one it is, so there's a degree of security and also privacy there. There's also a possibility, there's a protocol called RGB, like red, green, blue, that is working on putting colored coins on top of both the Bitcoin protocol, and they're interested in Lightning as well. So there are projects along those lines, but right now, first and foremost, we are focused on Bitcoin because we believe that is the biggest network effect, and that's where the biggest opportunity is. But there's another point I do want to make. So some folks may be familiar with Strike Global. I don't know if anybody here is working with them, Jack Mullers. But the concept that you can actually use Bitcoin and Lightning as a protocol for value, where because it's instant. So I was actually going on Twitter about this recently. Bitcoin can actually be a medium for exchange without being a unit of account. And I do think, a lot of the stuff Paxful does is similar in that regard, where with Bitcoin Beach, people are holding the coins. With Bernard, they're DCAing in, they're buying it. But other folks can actually not even know they're using Bitcoin. And I believe in the long term, the vast majority of users of this technology will likely not know they're using Bitcoin. It will be represented in other assets. It will enable payments and trading. And that's okay. Because, if we're going to get to this billion plus people, not everyone may know the inner workings of what they're doing. And you could have fiat, one. So you could have euro to Naira. And then Bitcoin could actually underlie that, and that's part of what Strike Global has been working on, and Lightning. And you don't have the volatility question there because it's an instant transaction, and then you're doing the trading pairs against Bitcoin over Lightning.
Yeah, so just to kind of clarify, I think what you're saying is that people can jump from one fiat to another fiat using Bitcoin as this temporary intermediate currency where they're only in Bitcoin for an instant or a few seconds or something like that. So there's very little volatility risk there, right?
Yes, as one option. And then people say, okay, well, why don't you just do the direct pair? And then the answer is, well, if everything's trading against Bitcoin, that ends up being the common liquidity pair, as opposed to okay, is there a euro Naira market, or, an Argentine peso, rupee market or something.
I just pinged Jack, by the way. I don't know why we didn't think to try to get him in for this talk. So if anybody has a more direct line and wants to reach out, please do.
A Lightning room. I know there's a lot going on right now. Javier, we didn't hear back from you, but do you have any thoughts in terms of both either volatility or the rising price and how that's affected folks' usage in Venezuela?
We have plenty of different P2P markets, but local Bitcoin was the main option for many of the users. And as the price of Bitcoin rises, they also raised the fees to deposit Bitcoins on the platform and also to get the Bitcoins out of there. But since probably the end of or the middle of 2019, Binance was creating a campaign of aware about their own P2P market, and they also added Tether USDT that is running on Tron, that is sealed. So as the main way to exchange Bitcoin to Bolivars or Bolivars to Bitcoin get harder to use because of the fees and because of the rise of the price of Bitcoin. Many of the volume of local Bitcoin fly to Binance, and I think that if not the majority right now, at least half of all the volume that the Bitcoin movement of remittance around Venezuela and local Bitcoins, and in some moment with Paxful and other P2P markets that are operating here, at least half of all that volume went to Binance P2P, and they are using mainly USDT on Tron chain because it is free to transact. I think that maybe if we can find a way to connect Lightning Network or something like that to local Bitcoins or even to Binance, we can see a more organic adoption of Bitcoin and of Lightning Network, of chain, to solve the fee problem. And as we are in a context where the volatility of our currency is worse than anything that you can hold in the whole world, that is not a problem, the volatility of Bitcoin. I mean, I do prefer to hold Satoshis over Bolivars any day of my life. So the volatility is not a big problem, but if you are working with remittance, you need liquidity, but also the stability and the free money, or the money that you can save using something that like USDT on Tron. So I think that it is a combination of a new product that fits perfect in the narrative of the de facto dollarization that is happening. So Venezuelans are used to use dollars instead of Bitcoin, and USDT fits that narrative perfect. But also the great marketing that they are doing lately, and how they are trying to take the market, the Venezuelan market, as one of the main objects of their expansion. And maybe local Bitcoins, they need to launch an app, that is critical. I think that the application in the mobile is a killer app. So the Bitcoin movement around Venezuela and Venezuelans outside the country is still happening, but it is not as big as it was before, and you can see the Coinbase number of the local Bitcoin volume, and as you can't see the same numbers of Binance, maybe you can't directly compare the two because they don't have open APIs, but it is almost the new normal to use Binance to do all the crypto stuff, and the narrative of payments is not too much popular because you don't want to hold Bolivar. You can pay with dollar cash, because we don't have how to give you back if you are paying with a 20. How can I give you, I don't know, $6? We don't have the box, the bills to make those operations. So people use Bolivar to complete this kind of operation, or directly use Bolivars as a medium of exchange. I think that this is the Grecian law. I want to hold the Satoshis, and if I can spend the Bolivars, of course I'm happy to spend those. And Tether is not in the street. It's mainly to exchange, to receive remittance and all this stuff. But I think that that will be the next phase if we don't see an adoption of Lightning in the exchange, in the P2P market, and in the more little approach in the Satoshi in Venezuela group. We do P2P using Lightning Network, so we exchange daily, like, I don't know, $100, $150. It could sound little, but we have limits of $10 for operations, so there are 15 operations happening daily among maybe 30, 50 people that are really active in the community and are using that. But this is a really tiny experiment that we are doing because we find Lightning useful, and we think that is the way to go. But if we don't have adoption in the on-ramps, it will be hard to see a more broad adoption of that technology.
I'm confident we'll get there, and that's really exciting to hear what you guys are doing, within your community around Lightning. I actually have a quick question for Bernard. I heard yesterday that Bitcoin was trading at a premium, 36% in Nigeria. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, I saw that, man. I want to just comment on that. I didn't even know what to say. I mean, that's like I think that's a one-off situation, because when I checked the thing, it was like a single trade on Luno or somewhere like that. But that's not what it's happening in the market.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, I think somebody tracked down the original source, which is probably not the most reliable source.
Yeah.
So is there a premium right now?
No, really, there isn't, because the thing is, the market is still liquid. So at this point, Nigeria is still, the market is still liquid. You can still get Bitcoins. So
I think there's something comment I would do one little comment I would do regarding that. Ray can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons why people media usually do this calculations and say there's a big premium in Nigeria is because the official rate for Naira is not actually the street rate for Naira.
Exactly.
So usually Bitcoin follows the street rates as well. It's the same in Argentina too. So that's why they do this misleading.
That's true, Lucas. That's right.
Yeah, for the audience to understand, like there are maybe a half a dozen countries with entrenched unofficial exchange rate markets or black market rates or parallel market rates, whatever you want to call them. And Nigeria is definitely one of them. They have a huge informal economy that uses the informal exchange rate there. And the premium right now, as far as I understand, my website actually tracks it. It's 20%. So that is a little bit of a non-story to say that it's trading at a premium. It's simply trading at the street price. But that's the fact that it does trade at the street price or black market rate, whatever. That has serious advantages in certain areas. In the case of remittance, it's huge because you can purchase, if you're a Nigerian immigrant living in the United States, you can purchase Bitcoin at the global market rate. So today you could purchase Bitcoin at the rate of 50,000. You could send that Bitcoin to Nigeria, and your family back in Nigeria could sell that Bitcoin for the street price, not the official price. And because of that, you actually get a 20%, roughly, you get a 20% better deal than if you actually used Western Union or some other remittance company. So there are huge use cases that can be taken advantage of in many countries around the world because of this disparity between official exchange rates and unofficial exchange rates.
Yeah, you're right, Matt. You're right. And that's why remittances is like one of the very big use cases for Bitcoin. So for a lot of people, they're not really looking at it as digital gold. They're just looking at it as the fastest way to, kind of send money home and receive it as better exchange rates than the banks. And the interesting thing about it over here is, so it's like you have three parallel markets, in fact. So you have the official exchange rates, then you have the black market exchange rate between the Naira and the dollar and the US dollar. Then you have an exchange rate between the Naira and Bitcoin dollar. So it's funny how it happens. So it's kind of the exchange rate between the Naira and what we see as the Bitcoin dollar is always above the black market exchange rate for the Naira against the dollar. So at every point in time, you're always sure that, okay, if you move money with Bitcoin, you're always going to get the best of the market when you convert it into the Naira. So it's kind of an interesting market.
Yeah, and then additional insight there, some people ask me, why would people on Paxful, why would all these Africans, especially Nigerians, why would they sell a $100 Amazon gift card for $60 worth of Bitcoin? And it's because, again, they're going to get a 20% premium when they cash it out back home for Bitcoin, and they'll make another premium when they cash it out for bank transfer on top of that. So it actually ends up becoming very competitive with Western Union, and they get the funds instantly without the hassle of having to go somewhere and wait online. So it's amazing, this arbitrage marketplace that Bitcoin has created for us.
Yeah, interesting. I'm sorry. Let me just come in on that as well. So, Ray, I don't know if you've probably done that. So, but I don't know if you're aware of this. So, I think Paxful came live sometime in 2015, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, very well. So, the funny thing is, for a lot of these people as well, it's like they're running their own remittance businesses, yeah? And Paxful is kind of like a platform that they kind of rely on. So it's like you're having people who serve as the middlemen between the end users who, can't really do P2P trading on Paxful or are not familiar with gift cards. And then these people are running their own remittance businesses using Paxful's marketplace. So it's kind of really interesting. And I've seen a lot of people. So back in Accra, I used to do a lot of OTC. So back then, so just a little background on, I think how this space kind of grew. how I noticed the space changed from like 2013. So in 2013 to kind of get the Bitcoin was really difficult. You needed to know someone who has, and sometimes they don't want to sell all they have to you. Now, going into 2014, 2015, we started seeing a couple of websites who just, put something in and say, so some of these websites were already selling things like what do you call it? They used to do Liberty Reserve, and I think Liberty Reserve got shut down in 2013 as well. So you have this set of people who did things like eGold, Liberty Reserve, Perfect Money. These people are already used to online digital currencies before Bitcoin came, right? And now there is Bitcoin. They just shut down Liberty Reserve, and then Bitcoin is there on the scene. So now you have these websites coming up saying, "Hey, look, we sell Perfect Money, we sell Bitcoin," and so the way it used to work was, you place a deposit, you make a payment on one of these websites, you fill a form, put the amount you want to buy, make the payment, the person confirms it. Now, after the person confirms your payment, what they do is, it could take you a day or two before you receive that Bitcoin, right? So the person now has to start moving around, looking for Bitcoin to actually sell to you. Right now, when they do that, they get your Bitcoin. So it's kind of operated on trust a lot, even though a lot of people, fell to scammers. But so just these few websites. I know in Ghana, for example, there was some CB Tech. In Nigeria, there was some Naira X, Naira for Dollar, and a few other websites, right? So all of these guys that were doing all these other online currencies just kind of moved into the Bitcoin space. Then sometimes in 2015, you had platforms like Paxful also coming up, and then a lot of these people just kind of, because they were, familiar. So I think the masterstroke for Paxful was, introducing the gift cards option, right? So these people were already familiar with all of these things, and they just started using it to, run businesses and all of that. And then within 2016, a lot of people got to know about Bitcoin, because in Nigeria, most especially, was because of I think there was this Ponzi scheme, MMM, started by this Russian guy, I've forgotten his name. So it got so popular, and because people were using Bitcoin to kind of and you have these guys who are able to buy gift cards, trade them on Paxful, and then sell them to these people who then go on to fund their MMM accounts. So I think everything just happened, just kind of took off. And before the 2017 bull run, which kind of just blew everything out of the water. And yeah, so it's been, I've met a lot of people. I know a lot of people who actually trade on Paxful. So with gift cards, you have these guys who wake up in the morning, and the first thing they are posting, in fact, I think during the call, I just saw one screenshot and I was just laughing. They're like, "Hey, look, I'm buying all of your gift cards," or "I have Bitcoin for sale." And these guys are running businesses, right? But they're relying on all of this infrastructure to run these businesses. So I think it's really interesting that this is not just something that people are seeing as digital gold. This is like, for a lot of people, for a lot of young people, who are online, who are upwardly mobile, to them is, look, this is another way to earn income. For a lot of them, this is the only thing that they do, right? This is the only way that they eat. So they wake up and they're, "Hey, look, someone should buy Bitcoin from me today so that I can eat," or "Someone should sell gift cards to me today so that I can eat." And it's really interesting. So I just wanted to let you know that, okay, that the platform has really made a huge impact. I've met people whose life has actually changed because they were able to transact on that platform and do a lot of this. And so, well done.
Thank you so much for that, Bernard. Great insight from an obvious OG. I want to talk to you about OTC and Accra after this, Bernard. But to double down on what Bernard is saying, there are people that are running, quite a few people that are running full-blown remittance and payments, like businesses, on Paxful. I'll give you an example. I went to South Africa, and I met a fellow in Johannesburg who actually started his own little version of Western Union, and it mimics it actually is the entrepreneurial journey, fits it to a T. He found first a community that had a problem. Nigerian migrant workers in South Africa. They're kind of an oppressed group down there, and they don't have bank accounts. They get paid in cash, in rand. They pay about 20% to Western Union to send money back home to mama in Lagos or Abuja or Port Harcourt. And mama has to go there, go home, drives up somewhere, wait on a long line, takes her about 2 days to cash out 20%. So he went to them and he said, hey guys, I can charge you half. And mama will get the funds the same exact day straight to her bank account. A lot of Nigerians do have bank accounts, right? So basically what he did was he told them to deposit the money, the cash, in his South African bank account. Then he would take that cash and use it to buy Bitcoin on Paxful. And then he would take that Bitcoin and sell it to someone on Paxful in Nigeria and say, hey, just send the money to this bank account here. So basically he turned cash in South Africa to Nigerian Naira via bank transfer. He used the universal translator for money function. He added the value himself, and everyone benefits, right? The guys in Nigeria get the money sent home immediately at half the price, and he makes his profit as well. And there's people doing this all over Africa. Every week I get a couple of tweets, hey, thanks for making me a millionaire. People have actually started their businesses here, and it is their livelihood, and these are all young people. And to me, that honestly, out of everything I've done in my life, the fact that we can empower and enrich so many young people in a place like Africa is honestly the greatest achievement of my life. And it's something that makes me so proud. It brings me to tears when I think about it. And it's why I'm just dying to get back to Nigeria and to see, all the amazing things that have happened and all, just the wealth and success that's happened there, because we've given people a path. And that's all Africa needs. People ask me all the time, why is Africa so backward when they don't have all these natural resources? And I say, hold on a minute. How advanced would the United States be if you could not send money from New York to New Jersey? And that is the reality in Africa. It's nearly impossible just to send money from one country to the country next door. It's easier to fill up a suitcase with cash and get on a plane. All we have to, Africa has wealth. It's not a bunch of poor, starving people walking around. That's tremendous wealth. They just can't use it. And once we give them the ability to use it, the ingenuity of the African young people just takes off. And you see them creating wealth all around. And that's all it takes. It was that easy the whole time. But finally, now, the first time in human history, people of Africa have all the tools. And it's thanks to this magical thing called Bitcoin, this peer-to-peer electronic cash, and their ingenuity that we're all here right now. So it's a great time to be alive, guys. Thank you for mentioning that, Bernhard. We really appreciate it.
By the way, I love that. I do want to give a brief shout out to my co-founder and CTO. He goes by Roast Beef on the Internet, Lalo. He actually was born in Nigeria, grew up in the US. So the leading developer in terms of so much of what's going on the Lightning Network is actually a Nigerian and American too. So there's so much ingenuity coming from that community as well. One other quick point, one thing I'm really passionate about is earning Bitcoin. We've heard from Bitcoin Beach about quite a lot of the stuff that they've been doing there. But if folks aren't familiar, check out a company called Stack. I actually got a message today from one of our investors who said that a friend of the investor said that they had a friend in Nigeria who was using Stack to earn sats. And, basically what the platform does is it's like Amazon Mechanical Turk. You can perform small tasks and then earn, maybe like 25 US cents per small task. And then that can add up. So especially as the value of sats goes up. So to me, the idea, they're really big in the Philippines. I know they're growing in Latin America. Clearly they have uses in Nigeria as well. But to open up the possibilities and the borders for people to earn money and perform work where they wouldn't have access to do so otherwise is something that I'm really passionate about as well in terms of what Bitcoin and Lightning can provide. So definitely check that out. I know there are a variety of other applications people are working on to actually enable people to work and earn and use Bitcoin and Lightning in that regard too. Stackwork.com is their website.
Yeah, and I just want to underline or slow down something that Ray said, and this is the magic of Bitcoin and peer-to-peer transfer, and it has nothing to do with investment or speculation or anything like that. But to slow down the steps of that South Africa to Nigeria story. You have Nigerian immigrants in South Africa who get paid in cash. They take their cash to some person, entrepreneur. They hand the cash to that person, the South African rand. That person deposits the rand in their own bank account. They use their own bank account to buy Bitcoin, either through some sort of peer-to-peer exchange like Paxful, or they can also use some sort of banking connected exchange like Luno in South Africa, for example. Once they have the Bitcoin, they can bring the Bitcoin to a place like Paxful, and they can find an advertisement on Paxful of somebody in Nigeria who wants to acquire Bitcoin and who has Naira that they are willing to send to a bank account of your choice. So the South African brings the Bitcoin to Paxful. He finds a Nigerian who will send Nigerian currency to that family member's bank account. And so that is actually like, I've kind of understood this process for a couple of years, but it still seems like magic to me. And like I said, it has nothing to do with investment or going to the moon or anything. They're using Bitcoin to solve a problem that they have in their daily life. And I think that's so powerful.
By the way, I said on a recent Clubhouse chat, there's number go up and there's number of people go up. And I'm all about that. I'm about number of people affected by Bitcoin going to the moon.
I wanted to share just another use case that we've seen in the community here and just the ingenuity that pops up. We had a local woman saw that there was a big demand for people looking to buy Bitcoin, and they're willing to pay, a 10% premium to buy it. And so in order to accumulate Bitcoin, she's set up a service for the locals where if people want to pay their electricity bill, she'll accept it in Bitcoin, and then she has a bank account and she can electronically pay their electric bill for them. So they go to her, she pays their electric bill, she takes the Bitcoin, and then she resells it for a 10% premium. And so we're seeing all kinds of, ingenuitive things like that pop up where people are connecting people to the financial system that before didn't have that ability. And so people that before had to take the bus for half an hour and wait in line for 4 hours to pay their electric bill, now don't even have to leave their house. They can she'll send them a lightning invoice, they pay it, and she pays their electric bill, and she makes a 10% profit by reselling the Bitcoin.
Yeah, and there are dozens of really clever use cases like this that I've learned about over the years. I mean, they never cease to amaze me, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, I have to give a big shout out again to the peoples of Africa for essentially teaching us what the killer app of Bitcoin really is. Everyone talks about it as a store of value. And indeed, that's very useful for the peoples of Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the value of the Naira, I think it goes down by over 20% a year or something ridiculous like that. And it's very useful as a store of value, of course, but as a means of exchange, that's the key. That's what we've been all talking about since the beginning. And the peoples of Africa have proven that first. They've shown us that Bitcoin's killer app is essentially as a universal clearing layer for all the world's financial networks. It's a way in to all the closed, walled-off gardens of the world. Like Africa has 2,000 payment networks. Only 3% of them talk to each other. Now here's Bitcoin married to these peer-to-peer marketplaces, and literally everyone has access to every financial network on the planet. Anyone that can get, has cash, can buy a gift card, can actually access every financial network on the planet, every bank account, every online wallet anywhere in the world. This is why I call it a universal translator of money. And it's the African people that figured this out. I think it's a landmark achievement. This is, to me, I can't think of another time when Black Africans are now leading financial technology adoption. They're not on the trailing edge. No, they're on the cutting edge, the razor edge. So I think 20 years, probably 10 years or even less from now, when people think of Africa, they're not going to think of poverty, disease, and corruption. They're going to think of wealth, and they're going to think of Bitcoin. That should make us all very proud.
Hey, Brecky, I think we have a hand raised.
Sure, we can take some questions. Let's see who we have. Marina, come on up.
Oh, wonderful. So I think, I don't know if you've mentioned it or not, but I think part of the struggle, I guess, at some point was that we did have a very strong HODL culture, right? And so becoming used to spending and taking out your treasure and doing what you need to do to be active in the community, I think was slowed down at some point. I'm doing some research in the global landscape about women and how they use crypto. And in fact, Bitcoin Beach, you have been wonderful. Thank you so much. I spoke with Terry, who has the only Bitcoin ATM in Central America, and Rosalina, who's 60 years old, can't read or write, but she's accepting Bitcoin at her shop. And then Javier has been amazing. He did the Lightning torch and taught me for the first time to even use Lightning. Matt and I actually translated an article about Bitcoin in Argentina. So I think there's a lot of topics that we share in common. But I can tell you that I've spoken to women who didn't know they could lend their Bitcoin, and so they sold very low instead of lending it, for example, right? Or even I'm speaking to people in Nigeria and Kenya and how they're thinking about it as well. So yes, we see it as a store of value, but I think that these options that Elizabeth, you guys are building, it's really incredible and powerful. But we need a little bit more Sherpas like Javier and Matt and people who are on the ground, Negrunch, who teach us, hey, this is actually not so scary, and we have to create a space where this is more comfortable and that it's not in the treasure 5 years, right? That may be an idea that I think is powerful. So, sorry, to be clear, is the question around education and usability, or? It's the point that we do have to build more usability. It shouldn't be so scary to use it. I think that we're still in the HODL culture, and I think it's a mindset that many people have to potentially change, right? The way that we had an old version of what do we do with crypto is the same with HODL. I love it. I agree with it, but I also think we have to learn to use Bitcoin and crypto and the apps that you mentioned.
We face that a lot, not from people within the community, but outsiders saying, well, why would people want to spend their Bitcoin? And why are you encouraging people to spend their Bitcoin? Because they don't get the fact that it's just such a easier way to transact, and it provides them banking services that they wouldn't have otherwise. And so there really is a prejudice within the Bitcoin community against spending. And I think with applications like Strike now, where you can seamlessly turn your fiat into Bitcoin with hardly any transaction fees, we need to encourage Bitcoin you spend, the more is circulating in the economy. And there's a lot of Bitcoiners that they haven't done a Bitcoin transaction in years. And I think that's a shame.
I would agree, but I think we're in this transition phase, and I think people are coming around to Bitcoin as being many different things to many different people, or different things at different times, different times of the day, I treat Bitcoin as my savings account, but, later in the day, I might go play a game of CSGO and, use Lightning to pay, 1,000 sats to enter the game, So if Bitcoin is going to be what we all think it will, it has to be all of these things, and that's okay.
Yeah, Bitcoin is different things to different people. And my impression has been that a lot of the HODL culture comes from, one segment of the world that is largely developed, that largely has, functioning systems. But if you have no other alternative, it's going to make for, a really compelling use case, necessity being the mother of adoption. But then in the Lightning world, Brecky mentioned the whole gaming culture, shout out to Zebedee, Thunder Games, Donner Labs, Satoshi's Games. But there are all these really interesting new use cases that are happening there where you just couldn't previously, like send like 5 cents in a game or something, but with Sats and on Lightning you can, and then you can earn Sats in tournaments and things like that. So you also have the unlocking of all the different use cases that just would not have been possible otherwise. So to me, HODL culture is much more the digital gold narrative, what I think of as a digital rock. But if we want to actually tap into magic internet money and everything that comes along with it, we can embrace the technology and have people have all these new use cases, and then all the emerging market use cases that I'm really excited about hearing, and I've loved hearing about today. By the way, Alex, I see you're here.
Yeah, what's up?
Do you want to comment about how Bitcoin and Lightning have helped solve problems in terms of the human rights questions in a variety of communities around the world?
Yeah, actually, Ray was kind enough to join HRF earlier today for like an off-the-record seminar with human rights activists, which was really great. We had activists from about 15 countries, and I think that the entrepreneurs and folks involved in commerce and remittances are like way ahead of the average person in emerging markets, and certainly way ahead of the human rights community. Like the average nonprofit or journalist group or labor union or environmental rights group, they just sort of haven't grasped this yet, which I see as, of course, an opportunity where we can help. And I think what we tried to sort of make clear is that, especially for like nonprofits in emerging markets and activists, there's sort of 2 levels to Bitcoin adoption. One would be your ability to earn income or receive a donation, and then understand how to custody that and hold on to that, which is something that we don't need to rely on any sort of third party to do, and can be done fairly privately and securely. And that's something that we'll be excited to help people understand how to do through basically BTC Pay Server, something like a Blue Wallet or a Moon Wallet, and of course a hardware wallet. I mean, we can help people with that. We can help activist groups around the world start accepting Bitcoin donations, and that's quite important. The second sort of side of it, of course, is these groups are going to need to sell the Bitcoin for fiat to pay for stuff, protest equipment, gas masks, salaries for employees, fees for journalists writing for the editors, etc. So that's kind of where Paxful comes in, and I'm excited that Ray's been willing to share his knowledge about this with us. But, look, the fact is, in most of the countries where these people are operating in, there's like pretty vibrant Paxful markets. And look, there's, of course, these are above board markets, right? What's cool though, is that like folks can use gift cards to enter, and hopefully soon folks can use Lightning to leave. So there's like a way to have it both ways, where like, these are completely legitimate businesses or nonprofits, but at the same time, there's ways to preserve privacy. So I'm pretty excited about that in general. But of course, this is just like a small slice of what's happening out there, with the human rights focus.
So I have a question. So peer-to-peer exchanges like Paxful are kind of known to be more censorship resistant than banking connected exchanges like Coinbase, for example, where with the stroke of a pen, the US government could cut off Coinbase from its users, right? That's not necessarily the case with a peer-to-peer exchange, especially in all these emerging markets where, these governments don't really have as much control over their larger population doing these peer-to-peer trades. But my question is I think those days could perhaps be numbered in that I think governments are getting better at tracking every single transaction of their citizens. And I've seen hints of this kind of crackdown in Argentina, for example. I've heard that the banks have actually gotten decently good at tracking or kind of tracking down these peer-to-peer traders. So what's going to happen if the governments get really good at this? That could start to negatively impact peer-to-peer exchanges. It could start affecting, human rights situations and things of that nature. So, have you thought about that stuff coming down the line? And I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now, 2 years from now, you see a government block your IP, block Paxful.com's IP from its own citizens, or starts doing other types of measures.
It's a great point. It's a very mature point, Matt. Thank you for bringing it up. You know, a lot of people are talking about, peer-to-peer is unstoppable. The CBN of Nigeria can't stop peer-to-peer. Everything's going to go peer-to-peer. And they're right to an extent. But, we as, the elder states people on this industry, we have to have a much more inclusive and mature outlook. Everyone has to be invited to the table, including the regulators. We can't vilify these guys. A lot of them are not bad people. I mean, I'd say none of them are really bad people, right? They're just trying to watch out for their people. It's true. A lot of them are under extreme pressure from corrupt parties. That's also true. But when I go to Nigeria this March, I'm going to make it my mission to meet all the elders in all the communities, whether it's a tribal community, a religious community, and also the regulator community and the government as well. We're going to invite them to the table. I'm going to be there on the ground. I'm going to put a face on all of this. Hi, my name is Ray. I run Paxful. I'm here to help. We're not bad people. We want to work with you guys. We want to show you this is safe. This is not a scam. We understand that many Africans have been victimized by all these scams and preyed upon them from external sources, etc. But that's not us. There's a way we can make this work, guys. There's a way that we can share this wealth. There's a way that people can pay their taxes on all this too. All we need is some clarity. And that really is the key word. Everyone is just looking for some clarity. Let's understand that regulators in the West have only now just started to catch up to what's going on. And they're not even aware of what peer-to-peer is. A lot of people in crypto still aren't aware what is happening in peer-to-peer marketplaces. So regulators in the emerging world are a step behind there. So it's up to us to go in there and educate them and give them a better solution, something that is all inclusive. And that's really the best defense that we have against this. It's to be mature business people and just humans. Let's meet, let's talk, let's break bread, let's figure this out. I wish I had a better answer, Matt, but that's something I'm dedicated to. And I invite anyone in the community to join me, because the more hands, the better. The more smiles, the better.
Well, and I would also make the point in terms of just broader regulatory questions. It's not like regulators, in a variety of governments just make a decision with no input and no information. So policy is something that can be influenced. My knowledge is much more in the US, but educating people, making them understand what the benefits of this technology is, right? And showing, telling these stories and showing these really cool use cases, I do think can affect that outcome as well, as opposed to the, old trope of Bitcoin is for criminals or something. When if you actually look at the fiat currencies and the large banks and all of the massive crimes happening there and all the fines and people getting away with a variety of things, it's a very different environment.
I would also add that there's only so much they can do. Look, in some countries, for example, Cuba, the trading isn't even done on centralized peer-to-peer marketplaces. It's all sort of done on Telegram groups, etc. And in other cases, in Iran's case, for example, something I learned recently through friends there, which I was kind of surprised at, but basically all the exchanges are totally centralized and the government kind of oversees them, but they permit them to operate. It's kind of weird. So there's so many different models in the world, and, people are just going to persevere. Look what happened, I guess, over in your case, in your general part of the world, Bernard. But if you looked at what the Bitcoins folks did, it took them 2 days to rejigger their back end so that they could continue trading, in a way that would not risk their customers getting their bank accounts frozen. So people are pretty nimble, and that's been amazing to see.
And the airdrop to healthcare workers in Venezuela, right, Javier?
Yes, and we have this kind of regime-aligned exchange that runs on or with the permission of their laws around cryptocurrencies, and they are almost forced to run the business with the Petro too, but the Petro didn't hit, and the project was really weak in the very beginning, but also the people that was involved in Bitcoin was really aware of that. At the end of the day, if you work with that, if you use it, you could be, it could give you some troubles that you don't need to deal with, because you are only trying to avoid the control and the destruction of your money. And I think that P2P markets will solve a lot of the problems till they could maintain the information that they handle off the hands of the regime, because it could lead to really harm over the people that is here using Bitcoin. And in the recent time, with the rise of the price, we have many people that are buying old and miners S9 to mine Bitcoin because of the cheap electricity. And that drove people to a new expectation on how they can use or how they can overtake Bitcoin and stuff like that. But at the same time, you have the regime militaries openly mining Bitcoin and openly showing that they are accumulating Bitcoin. So they are not so as vocal as the central bank governor in Nigeria about how Bitcoin is a thing among our economy, but they are moving in the shadows to try to take the advantage to using Bitcoin. So it's a kind of fight, a really strange fight on how we can help others to use this before them. So
I want to say something. So yeah, I think Marina brought up the healthcare drop. So just to give everybody a little background on that, the United States seized, I think, like $17 million from what it called, what it said was corrupt Venezuelan stolen money. They took that money and they gave it to a company, a peer-to-peer exchange in the Bitcoin community called AirTM. And they said for AirTM to distribute this money back to the Venezuelan people, right? So it was half humanitarian, but also halfway kind of a political play, such that it would kind of weaken the government in Venezuela. And so the thing that I want to bring up here is that Ray said, well, we want to shake hands and break bread with these people, but that's not always going to work. That's not always going to be the case. There will be occasions where the government is a kleptocracy, point blank. And in this case, AirTM was blocked. They blocked the Venezuelan government, told the ISPs in Venezuela to block AirTM, and AirTM had to, in a very not agile way, change their IPs around and teach people in Venezuela how to use VPNs and all of that stuff. And it was a big encumbrance to the people trying to redeem their money. And so the point that I was trying to make before was that I just hope that the companies in the space are getting ready for the day where a potential kleptocracy could do as much as they could to shut off access to these exchanges. And there are ways you can get around that by creating these redundancies online for your website, making it kind of a browser-only app instead of, if it's an app store app, they can shut you down in their app store in that country. But if it's an in-browser app, it's a lot harder. So these types of things are important to think about in the future because, like I said, I really think it's only a matter of time before this starts starts happening to a larger degree.
Well said, Matt. That is definitely a danger, especially in, we're living in the era of the currency wars, where nation states use currency as a weapon against other nations, right? And if you get stuck in the middle, Venezuela versus the United States, things happen, right? And the same thing could happen with Nigeria. If Nigeria gets too powerful, you're going to see the boomstick claw on them, and if companies are caught in the middle, they'll get cut. So it's a very, very delicate dance, and we are playing on a geopolitical field, and I think we should all be very conscious of that. Stakes are very high right now. It's not the good old days of Bitcoin anymore. We're all running around happy-faced. It's a very different game right now.
I want to ask to Alex something that he talks about Bitcoin as a Trojan horse. Maybe you can comment a little on that, because we are seeing authoritarian regimes holding Bitcoin and moving to a Bitcoin way to improve their own economies as kleptocracies, as Matt mentioned. So can you explain us how these Trojan horse plays could be in, I don't know, like the Venezuelan scenario?
Yeah. So basically, I think the concept is that this thing is like a virus and it spreads in people's minds. So, the governments are going to be incentivized out of their own self-interest to adopt this thing or seize equipment from citizens, or try to steal it, or use it to avoid sanctions, etc. But like the bureaucrats and the regime issuing those orders to the individuals in the government who are actually going to carry out the activities are necessarily learning about what Bitcoin is, and they're learning that there's like this currency that the government doesn't control. So this is just like pretty extraordinary, because over time they're going to realize that like they can, start participating too on a personal level or on a community level, etc. So really, like, again, there's this Trojan horse of self-interest and potentially, like, in this rivalrous planet that we have, like a kind of survival instinct that kicks in potentially eventually, where governments are going to start accumulating this thing. But they can't kind of have it both ways. I mean, they can't really keep knowledge away from their citizenry about it while kind of only reaping the rewards themselves. I think there's this trickle-down effect of the knowledge and the awareness that will come. And that's kind of what I mean by that.
Thank you, Alex.
I have a comment to make on the censorship part. So I'm working with Mike from Bitcoin Beach on the Bitcoin Beach wallet. And there was a day, like a Sunday morning, where suddenly the account was shut down for our Google Cloud account. It's like a bit, I mean, we have to think about the regulation from the government, but the big tech also kind of a big impact. And by that, I mean that on a Sunday morning, for some reason, because Google had detected that we were doing cryptocurrency mining, which was not the case, but basically they shut down the Google Cloud account, without any notice. And basically for 12 hours, the wallet was not working as a result. The backend was just like dead. And it was a bit scary because the backup was on Google Cloud and the backup was not accessible. And, the Lightning node was not working. And like basically after some time, the node doesn't work. Like there can be some issue with the channel that can be forceful and stuff like that. So luckily I knew people inside Google and I managed to get the account to activate later that day. But it made me realize that, also the big tech, I guess most of the, Lightning node and Bitcoin node rely on those, Google or AWS or Microsoft server. And it can be issues, especially for Lightning that require high connectivity and and it's something I'm not sure how to deal with yet. Maybe one on several cloud at the same time, but that's quite complex to do still today. But yeah, I think it might be an interesting point, to think also about the big tech as potential of censorship. And here it was not, Google was not like evil in the sense that it's just, they have algorithms that try to detect cryptocurrency mining, and they flag our account for wrong reason. And they shut down our account, on a Sunday because no one looked at it on their perspective. And because it was Sunday, like it took, quite a bit of hours to have the account reactivated. But we see for other, example late last year where, big tech company had shut down accounts, and it's another big tech vector, I believe. And it's probably a lot more relevant for Lightning than it is for Bitcoin. The reason is that for Lightning, you need this connectivity, you need this uptime 24/7. You don't really need that for Bitcoin. If you're a user, you can just launch your node when you want to do a transaction, and you can shut down your node after. But Lightning requires really this 24/7 that is not so easy to do at home.
Hi, this is Christian. Just really appreciate this panel about emerging markets. Thanks for all the views from Brazil, Venezuela to Nigeria and El Salvador. I just noticed that I have a question. Well, I just noticed that the narrative between emerging markets and developed market, it's very, very different. We've been running Bitcoin operations in Indonesia for the past 7-8 years. I think I share a lot of the same view with a lot of panelists you shared. People using Bitcoin in emerging markets, actually they use it not because it's investment asset class, because they want to gain a lot of money. It's just they want to use it for their day-to-day operations. They want to fund their business. They want to get a couple of games so they can survive. And some people don't have access to banking. So you see the developed market right now talking about the institutional adoption, right? So, and people are thinking about asset allocation, those kind of things. Do you think this narrative will eventually emerge in the emerging market? I just want to see different countries' views to see how the narrative will eventually merge. Would it remain separate?
And to be clear, the narrative you mean is the institutional narrative?
Yeah, it's the institutional narrative. The thing will institutions be talking about, allocating some of their treasury into Bitcoin? Is that happening in the emerging market, or is it just a developed market thing? So maybe we'd be happy to hear from Bernard, Ray, or Javier.
And I think to add on, one question we've seen as well is, will governments actually start acquiring more Bitcoin in these markets?
It's definitely not the Nigerian government.
Yeah, I didn't expect that just now.
We have a goal that El Salvador will be the first country to officially adopt Bitcoin as an official currency. They already use the US dollar, so they don't have their own currency to worry about upending. And we've made some, good connections within the government, and we could see it be, it's a long shot, but I could see them do it from kind of the similar perspective of the mayor of Miami as kind of a public relations tool to attract tech companies and to put a smaller country on the world map.
Yeah, so to answer Christian's question regarding if institutional investors, if all these institutions in Nigeria or in sub-Saharan Africa are kind of thinking of having Bitcoin on their balance sheets like we have in the States. So from what I'm aware of, it's kind of, for them, it's not really about having it on their balance sheets. It's more of how can they use this to kind of move value out of the Naira, which, as Ray said earlier, has been losing around 20% of its value against the US dollar consistently for the past few years. I think last year was it lost around 25% of its value, and you have inflation at as of today 16.2% or so. So it's pretty high. So for most of these companies, it's more of, okay, how can we get things like stable coins or, even Bitcoin to just literally just move value out of the system, which is kind of one of the things that contributed, to the central bank circular. So it's kind of, they're just trying to have more dollars in the Nigerian economy, but then there's a shortage of dollars. So, these companies have to figure out find a way out to still move, their monies out of the naira. So I don't really think they're thinking around just having it on their balance sheets, or probably smaller businesses, or maybe some individuals who own businesses and have a high risk appetite, thinking about it. But then I've not really seen or heard anything really serious around having it on their balance sheets.
Or another question would be, would they even be allowed to? It's one thing to desire to do such a thing. It's another, would corporations in the emerging markets, would they be allowed to allocate to Bitcoin? I have no idea, but I don't know if anybody else has any instincts on that.
With the new CBN ruling, the Central Bank of Nigeria as well, it's kind of because it's not. So the thing is in Nigeria, for example, is so you have one government agency that is pro, blockchain in quotes. So anything cryptocurrencies and everything, they are working to have. They're trying to support the growth and all of that. And you have the central bank who is like totally against it. Then you have the SEC. The SEC blows hot and cold. So the SEC is just warm. They're neither here nor there. So today,
by the way, for people in the US, the SEC is something different. So I was wondering that who is the SEC in Nigeria?
Nigeria has their own SEC, so we have a security.
Okay, so it is for securities in Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So for them, they released a draft framework sometime in October last year, and it's looking like they're trying to classify, cryptocurrencies or digital assets generally as securities or as commodities. So they seem to have done, their homework. They consulted stakeholders. But the funny thing is, when the central bank's ruling came out, they came out to say that, okay, they are standing by the central bank, and then all things on the draft are on pause. So it's kind of, they blow hot today, they blow cold today. So it's kind of, the way we see it is like we have 1.5 government agencies against the whole industry in Nigeria.
I had Han to, he had a question, I think.
Welcome, Han. Yeah, anyone in the audience, if you have questions, please raise your hands. We'll bring you up.
Hi, thank you, Matt. Yeah, it's a really nice meeting all of you here. Thanks so much for having this panel. I actually met Matt before. We invited Matt to Google last year for a talk around the Bitcoin in emerging markets. So thanks, Matt, for that. Really learned a lot. So my question is really related to Argentina. So because I personally work in the emerging markets division inside Google. So really interesting, like how's the situation in Argentina going on right now? Relate to macroeconomics, but also like basically Bitcoin adoption in Argentina. I think Matt might know, Ray may know too. Also, like, have you guys talked to Mu wallets before? I think they are doing their Mu 2.0 wallet is super interesting. did something new around lightning and a social recovery of the backup method.
I can take a stab at Argentina, and I also do like Moon Wallet a lot. It's a Lightning wallet, and the interesting thing that I believe they're doing with their new wallet is they are paying the fees of the Bitcoin fees on behalf of the users in the hope that they will take a fee on Lightning transactions, which I think is like a really interesting way to solve the inbound capacity problem potentially. But as far as Argentina as a whole, and I don't know if I just said a bunch of things that were incorrect, so you can correct me afterwards, but in reference to Argentina as a whole, for the publicly observable peer-to-peer markets, it's actually kind of stagnated over the last year, but I don't think that is reflective of what's actually happening on the ground. I hear that Binance P2P is doing very well. I know that DAI is actually, like the DAI stablecoin actually has quite a lot of liquidity in Argentina. I'm trying to think of they have a few really big exchanges there that basically their base trading pair is DAI. I also know USDT has traction there as well, and there is a very large Argentina Facebook page that Franco Amati is in charge of. I'd encourage you to look at it. You can find a treasure trove of insane Bitcoin use cases on that page if you run the translate. I found a lot of really insane stuff there, but I think it is skyrocketing there, despite the kind of the plateauing of volumes on publicly observable exchanges. And I don't know if anybody else has their finger on the pulse there, but as far as I can tell, it really is taking off a lot there.
Also, the founder of Moon, MUUN, and their team are in Argentina, Buenos Aires. I was actually hanging out with him a little bit over a year ago in BA, getting the perspective of what they were building. So for future discussions, it would be cool to rope them in and hear about what's going on there. I also know, I believe Ripio, I think they're based there. Lucas.
Yes, yes, they're based in Argentina. I actually talked to both Mule Wallet and Ripio last year. Invited them to Google. We had a talk. Also, like Google is also partnering with Ripio, I think, in Argentina for some other businesses. Yes, super interesting teams.
In Argentina is the biggest innovation hub in South America with Brazil, right? They have among the most unicorns. They are the most used to inflation changes. They're super creative. They have the greatest engineers. So in RSK and a lot of these teams are there. I'm not surprised. Matt and I wrote about this. Well, Matt wrote about it. I helped them translate to Spanish. And MakerDAO is there. So it's a really, really vibrant economy. And Wences, which is the OG of Bitcoin, he was from Argentina. He's the one that has been evangelizing so many people around the world, correct?
Yeah. He's as far as I understand, been a big part of getting the roots of Bitcoin started there. And Blendbit was the other exchange that I was thinking about. They, at least as of 6 months ago, they had a ton of liquidity in DAI. I think they were doing so much that they didn't want to talk about it. There's a lot of interesting things happening in Argentina, and of course it is. It's another one of those countries. I think it has like 10 exchange rates at times. They have like a soybean exchange rate, and because there's so many government regulations on business transactions there. So it's not a coincidence that Bitcoin gravitates towards these heavily controlled jurisdictions.
By the way, when I was in Buenos Aires in December 2019, was chatting with the Moon team, and also met the RSK folks. Like, really incredible community there. I miss traveling. I miss seeing my friends and going places. I'll never forget, they had mentioned that week alone, the peso had 15 to 20% inflation. And of course, if folks are familiar, there's the dollar blue rate, which is the street rate. We also talked about that in Nigeria, which had returned, which hadn't been there the prior time I was in Nigeria, which was less than a year before that. So that had returned as well. And I had actually heard from some friends, folks kept US dollars in Argentine bank accounts. So like in Argentina, but it would be denominated in dollars. But in the past, there had been forced conversions at really bad rates to the peso. So people were also afraid of that. So I have friends that were going to buy apartments and bringing literal suitcases of physical USD cash to do so. And then the lawyers just sit there and they count out the bills. So yeah, Bitcoin can provide, alternatives to this because, putting literal cash under your mattress is not really an ideal practice.
That's a great point, Elizabeth. I just want to bring that point out, unravel it a bit. Everyone made such a big deal out of Robinhood, liquidating people's GameStop stocks at a price they set against their will. And indeed, it was a travesty. But people in emerging markets having been dealing with this for decades, with their banks just liquidating, currency, true as foreign currency or whatever rate they set to their local currency and basically screwing them out of their money. So this has been an ongoing thing that people in emerging markets have been dealing with since forever. And now we're just starting to notice, my goodness, Bitcoin to the rescue.
And especially we're talking about like inflation rate so high in those emerging markets, and some government actually banned the citizens to own Bitcoin. And I think government is aware that they need to control the currency. Do you think the government will actually make the move to because they ban people the things they don't want to do because they want to do it, perhaps? Do you think government can potentially make the first move to have some central bank reserved in crypto?
Yeah, I'll just kind of give my theory on this. I think, Bitcoin, it is a double-edged sword for all these governments. It allows their citizens to do things that they don't necessarily want them to do, or it allows their citizens to do business activity without taking their own cut, or, those types of things. But at the same time, it also allows those governments to do activities that aren't necessarily allowed on the international level. They're under the thumb of a lot of unfair practices on a global level as well. And so it will be very interesting. What I think will happen is the governments will try their very best to kind of create a dozen different laws on how you can use Bitcoin. They'll ban it, they'll unban it. They'll ban it for use in this way. They'll allow it for usage in that way, that type of thing. And it'll be like this decades-long struggle of trying to squeeze as much out of it as they can, while also kind of still trying to, keep their tax base together and that type of thing. So, but in the end, I think that it's possible that Bitcoin could really just force all of these individual governments, as well as the global system on a whole, to just become a more free market. And that's really what I think, that's my grand vision for Bitcoin, is it's going to force everyone to play by the rules of capitalism and free markets.
Yeah, very much agree your input.
Yeah, so you guys did 6102, right? So they banned gold for 40 years.
By the way, Bernard, I think it's getting really late for you. Did you want to comment and then probably pass out? Or?
No, it's all right. I'm actually very much awake. I'm actually used to this time zone. So, so I have. I want to really just talk about something quickly. So I'm not sure if everyone is aware of this, but I've known about this for a while. So Paxful does this thing where I think they're building schools with part of their profits around Africa. So I'd just like him to briefly, we've been talking about the other sides of Bitcoin. So just briefly, just take us through, that project, and just let's hear the impact around it. And then after that, I know, Ray, so all the issues that you're talking about using gift cards and stuff, recently after the central bank ban, we did an integration with gift cards that basically solves like all of the problems that you are having with Amazon and all of those gift cards. So we can probably talk about that as well. But then please take us through the schools project.
Thanks for bringing that up, Bernard. That's something very close to my heart. It says a lot about you that you would bring that to the forefront. Yeah, so the mission, is to create wealth for people. And my co-founder and I, we knew that Bitcoin could help the little guy. So one of the big things for me personally was, I didn't want to, wait until we became, quote, made it.
It's on.
By that, I don't think it's socially or corporately responsible. So we swore that we'd be giving back from day one, not just when we made it. So 2 years ago, we built our first school in Rwanda for 400 children. And it's actually a full campus, and we're constantly upgrading it. We paid for the uniforms, built the structures. I flew down there myself and saw it opening up, and it was one of the best moments of my life, I have to say. We're always upgrading them. It has a clinic, it has a sports field. We've installed some batteries and solar panels, and it's actually a campus. It's a full-on campus. It even has a water distribution facility, which we've actually managed to turn into a sustainable water distribution facility, not just a well. So it's part of my belief that water and education are the bases of civilization. And my mission is to build 100 schools across Africa and the emerging world. We just completed our 4th school in Nigeria, in Kaduna district, and there's a well as well. And we'll be constantly upgrading these schools. It is my dream, call me crazy, but one day I want to have, one of these schools, maybe several schools, being the schools for gifted children, Professor Xavier style in Africa. I've got a lot of crazy dreams for a bootstrap company to be spending its profits building schools. It's kind of crazy, but we couldn't have done this if we took any VC money. So it's up to us now to prove to the world, and to eventually we will take, money from someone, but I'm not going to give this up. I'm not going to let anyone tell me that we cannot do this. So now our mission is to show the world that this is actually a good thing for companies, that it can actually help companies in their mission for profit, because I want the whole world to join in this initiative. We've created Built with Bitcoin Foundation, and the campaign is called Built with Bitcoin. And all these schools and everything in them was completely funded with Bitcoin. So we went to Rwanda. And, when I first got there, I had to pay my hotel bill and my credit card didn't work. So I turned to, my tour guide and I said, hey, bro, will you pay this bill for me with Rwandan francs and I'll give you Bitcoin at plus 10%? He was like, sure. And I was like, all right, if we can do that, then why can't we do it on a greater level? Why can't we put $250,000 worth of Bitcoin in and have people turn it into Rwandan francs? And the Rwandans were very happy to get that because, Bitcoin goes at a huge premium over there. So we put in, $250,000 and we got even more out, and we used that to actually build the schools. It works. You can actually build awesome, sustainable structures with Bitcoin. So this is a call out to the entire community. It's not just Paxful and me involved in this. I want the whole world involved in this. And I want us to prove to the corporate world that this can actually help for-profit companies, because we have to make this sustainable, guys. And the truth is that, I never believed in charity, and I still don't believe in charity. 95% of what you give these so-called charities just goes into administrative costs, paying people's jobs at desks, and hardly any of it ever gets to the ground. 100% of what people put into Built with Bitcoin goes to helping the people on the ground. 100%. I swear to you, on my honor, on my life, that is the case, and it will always be the case. So if we can actually show the world that for-profit companies can actually benefit from this, we can have something tremendous. We can have the energy of for-profit companies going into social good, because there's 7 use cases for Bitcoin, right? And the final one, the last one, the biggest one for me is social good. It is an actual use case, and it's what is all leading up to. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm very excited to be going to Nigeria and opening up our 4th school in Kaduna State. Whoever wants to join me can come. We will also be opening up our 3rd school in Kenya, in Machakos County, if anyone's familiar with it. They've suffered from a huge drought. We choose the regions for our schools carefully. The first 2 schools we built in Rwanda were in Bugesera district. Bugesera district is where the genocide first happened 20 years ago. And I'm proud to report that Rwanda is one of the safest, cleanest, least corrupt places on earth. And that's why we choose, to build schools in the places where it's needed most. So everyone is welcome to join us. Built with Bitcoin Foundation is officially live. You can go there to buildwithbitcoin.org. And if you'd like, make a donation or just come on over and join us and lend your smiles and let's have an awesome time. It really is the best feeling in the world. Forget the Lambos. Building the school tops that by 100x at least.
By the way, that's incredible. Yes. We need a meme. We're like searching for a meme. That's the opposite of Hoodies have fun saying poor memes. So forget the Lambos. That's a good one. I also want to give a shout out to BTC Ven, Bitcoin Venezuela, when we had the really cool lightning torch phenomenon in 2019. The proceeds were donated and they seem to be doing really cool work over there. But also there are some really incredible community members in emerging markets, especially a variety of folks in various places in Africa, Elekanani, Ichirling, the Satoshi Center in Botswana. There's Fode Diop in Senegal, who's done a lot of really great evangelism and developer meetups and working with developers. Tim Akimbo in Nigeria. Anita Posh, the podcaster, has been doing a lot of documentation of a variety of these communities. She was actually in Botswana right before COVID happened and did a whole series of podcasts. She has a great one with Tim as well and some of these other folks. So definitely, I know Bernard is like the true night owl, but some of these other people are asleep right now just because of time zones. But definitely check out the great work of a variety of people in the community on the ground in these places.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's not just about how much we can make. It's not just about the money and all of that. It's, we're seeing people's lives, being directly impacted by Bitcoin and, just a totally new way of doing things. And it's incredible. And it's a privilege to, kind of be around to see all of this happening and to be part of this. So great work.
Thank you, Bernard. It's a huge challenge to us in the business community to make social good profitable for-profit businesses and showing them that they can actually do this in a place like Africa and they can make more money. And then we'll get all this huge infusion of capital into Africa, developing Africa. And that, I truly believe that Africa is the new America. I especially believe in Nigeria, it's gonna be the line that's gonna lead it forward. So that's that is really, honestly, at the end of the day, it's my main mission because I believe Africa can lead a golden age for humanity. The sheer brilliance and drive of all of its young people and just the immense wealth, the country, the natural resources, meaning not in the ground, but in the brains of its young people. It can absolutely do it. Africa can shock the world. It can lead the world. Africa, India, the entire emerging world, the global south. It can be the greatest underdog story of all time because we have Bitcoin. We have this amazing community as evident by the people right here. And we're all working together now, facing in the same direction. And we're gaining resources. We have money now. That's so beautiful. The change we can make now is so real. It is truly change that we can believe in, but it's a challenge. We have to show all these, corporate dudes that are just about money that, hey, you can do this, you can give back, and you can make more money. So that's a challenge to all of us. And we have some amazing ideas at Paxful to do some amazing things on the marketing side to really show these companies that they can actually make more money. And I keep saying this because this is the only way we're going to get all this capital into Africa. And if we can do that, and I believe we can with the brains in this community, there's some of the most brilliant people in the world in this community. We can do it. We can change things. We can not just revolutionize finance, but we can revolutionize marketing. If you think about how companies market, came from the 1930s, right? Edward Bernays, very predatory, style of marketing that is just about take. And the African people, to their credit, reject that. All these companies want to go in and penetrate Africa, and they sound like rapists. This is not the way forward. You have to go in and you have to give first. And that's what we have to do. It's about giving first. It's a huge phase change. It's another huge challenge for us, but I know we can do it, and it's going to be beautiful. Good God, Ray! I feel like I've been at an amazing TED Talk all night. That was awesome. The community, the Bitcoiners need to hear more from you, or I'm just not listening to the right podcast. One of the two. Thank you. Alrighty, folks. Do we have any more questions? Oh, we do. Jonathan, come on up.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Big fan of everybody up here. And I just wanted to, it seems like the topic du jour on all the other rooms has been NFTs, especially around Bitcoin. There's been a lot of hot discussions on it. I would love to hear this room's ideas around NFTs and emerging markets. I really see like the creative explosion there being something that can really be leveraged in these markets. And I would just like y'all's.
I think that's you, Brecky.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'll speak in general on NFTs. I don't want to get into the whole Bitcoin versus Ethereum thing, but in general, I've seen some really cool aspects with NFTs, where, they help artists get paid, and, artists can, earn royalties on subsequent sales and things like that. So I do think there's definitely some promise in what's being developed. I don't know that NFTs are the way forward for the emerging world. I mean, I think, what's really important is changing the money and changing, how people can save and how they can spend and how they, they aren't forced into, effective financial slavery by their governments. Like, to me, that's why I'm a Bitcoiner, and that's why I'm doing what I do. I think NFTs are really cool. I just don't know that, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's tangential to Bitcoin. It's important. NFTs pale in comparison to the importance of what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin is doing. So while I do think they're cool, I just don't know. I don't know if that was helpful or not, but
yeah, I don't know either. I have no idea, but I know that animated GIFs are certainly not the full expression of the potential of NFTs. I think what we have to do here is, we can't figure this out ourselves as entrepreneurs. What we have to do is we have to introduce this again to the people. And I'm always a big fan of the Nigerian people, because they figure stuff out, and they'll figure stuff out that none of us could imagine. And who knows, if we introduce NFT to them in a very kind of user-friendly, marketable way, what use cases they'll figure out for it. They might start, taking picture of their deeds and transactions, and putting, deeds for real estate on there. I hear that Bitcoin is actually being used for real estate transactions in Nigeria right now at a rapid pace, and escrow services especially. Maybe a step further would be another layer of proof showing that the land's indeed been transferred over. And who knows? I have no idea, but if I had to bet, I'd bet that the people of Africa, especially the people of Nigeria, could probably figure out something truly epic with it.
We're going to do epic things with lightning too. Don't worry.
Oh, and I'm not, brother.
Love it. Well, and Becky, you have an art piece, not an emerging market topic, but anybody around the world can bid on this via Lightning, right?
Yeah. I don't want to get too much into that, but it is a very cool concept. I'm not going to bid on my own piece, but I placed bids on other pieces from some artist friends of mine, and there's absolutely no friction. You place a bid in seconds, it works, it's done. So just shows the power of Lightning. And what I'm really excited about is how people are going to use Lightning. I don't think we've even scratched the surface yet of what can be done with Lightning. And, Lightning Labs is building all the tools, and now everyone has to go out and play with them. So it's just exciting times.
Yeah, Scarce.city currently has the auction. And I know right now we talked about video games. I know other folks could comment more in terms of the emerging market component, but I think, digital goods and enabling Lightning payments for those and enabling creators to create them and then integrating the payment layer could be really interesting just at a higher level. Lucas, I know there are some Brazilian CSGO tournaments emerging right now in the Lightning side. Are you involved in that at all?
Yeah, no, I'm not involved. It's Bitcoineiros, they are doing that. I'm just helping promote it and send it to the television.
Okay, so you are involved. I mean, you're helping out.
He's just humble. He's stacking sats and staying way too humble.
It's mostly their idea. They are doing a tournament where they will do a live video on their YouTube channel. They are a Bitcoin-only YouTube channel with more than 4,000 subscribers, and they are going to do a tournament with some satoshis as a prize.
I'll say the ability to earn sats playing video games, I think, it's really cool, especially if you think about like the disparity between more developed countries and less developed countries, and the differences in income. If you're in the developing world and you have access to a computer, you can play a video game. Like, you're a little further ahead than most maybe, but you could be playing CS:GO against someone in the U.S. in your home country, the amount of money you're making might actually be meaningful. And you earn an income from microtransactions. I don't know, the economics on that if it actually works, but it sounds nice. It's kind of exciting.
I've heard stuff about Nigerians grinding away on like the United Kingdom poker rooms and making $3-4 an hour, and so I think that's definitely a thing. Absolutely.
And then stack work as well is another really interesting example. There's basically an arbitrage opportunity as well, especially when it's in Bitcoin, where you don't have to be beholden to, say, hyperinflationary currencies or the disparity of being paid in those.
Hey, Elizabeth, can I ask you, what is something that really, really excites you about, the Lightning development world? Something that most people may not know about, someone like me wouldn't know about. I don't know.
Sorry, when you say development, do you mean like the developers or? Oh,
sorry. So not like the development of the protocol itself, but like, what is something that someone's building with Lightning that is really exciting to you? If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, well, all of it.
All of it.
No, I mean, I can't just, by the way, check out, we have a Substack newsletter highlighting a lot of it. Okay, I mean, one example that it's not an emerging market example, but to me just represents the ingenuity of the community, is there was this enthusiast who was an aerospace engineer in Kentucky in the US, and he purchased a Tesla specifically to reverse engineer the Tesla. So, so smart and creative, and then integrated Bitcoin and Lightning payments into his Tesla. Not a rich guy, just like wanted to have this maker project, and, talking about with Ray and just all the really brilliant folks around the world in emerging markets. And, we've talked a lot about Nigeria. Again, shout out to Lalu and on our team. I can just see an explosion of these types of projects like about to happen when, this technology is in people's hands and where they're able to just tinker and become makers. And then we're also seeing a lot of I love the art and the music community emerging, Scarce.city auctions, the podcasting. Oh, great example as well, where let's say you're creating a podcast and you're not, in a place where you could have mainstream distribution or, get paid easily. Well, Lightning can unlock that. So Adam Curry, who's known as the Podfather, one of the pioneers in the podcasting world, is working with the Sphinx chat app. Sphinx.chat has chat over Lightning. You can embed payments and messaging, and they have a podcasting platform when podcasters can earn sats. So to me, just like the creative element, I'm really excited about right now. There's Lightning music.store and a lot of other folks just coming out with some really cool ideas to enable people that are creating to earn sats on the internet.
I know one that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lucas.
No, I was just going to say I'm excited to see what folks on the ground are going to experiment once we launch Lightning on Paxful, because I see a lot of gaming stuff being traded on Paxful. There are some game items that are cheaper on Brazil, for example, and the Filipinos or the Indonesians go to the Brazilian vendors and trade with them because they see there's an arbitrage opportunity. So I'm really excited to see what will happen once we launch Lightning on Paxful, to see what kind of opportunities people will find with all this gaming stuff on Lightning and all the other opportunities with Stack, like Elizabeth mentioned. I'm excited to see.
Oh, I have no doubt about the creativity, and I can't wait with Ray and everyone to see what is unlocked in terms of their projects as well.
Yeah, I've seen people in the Philippines, in Venezuela. You know, they gather video game gold, and they actually sell it through Paxful. I've seen certain vendors on Paxful who kind of specialize in that type of thing, brokering video game gold and video game items and stuff like that. So that's only beginning, and it's actually really kind of not a great user experience at this moment, but the fact that it's popped up just shows that the market is there for these companies to make it better and better and better.
Have you guys announced when you're gonna integrate Lightning into Paxful?
Ray, do you have any details on that?
I'm sorry, was that a question for me?
Yeah, the question was if you've announced when you guys are integrating Lightning. There was an article today with Artur, who I know is on a later time zone, about it. Yeah, is there any more info, Ray, on that in terms of timing?
Timing, I'm reluctant to give an exact date, but we do have our best people. Actually, we have our very best architect working on this one right now. We've given it its top priority, in addition to all the fires we put out on a daily basis. But yes, I believe that I can't say, but anywhere from like a month to 6 weeks, I think it should happen.
No, it's 2 weeks, right? TM, like in the community.
Yeah, I'd never say 2 weeks, never. I always say 4 to 6, because, man, you're lucky to do that. But we want to do it right.
Oh, but by the way, 2 weeks is a meme. I don't know if you knew that. Like, it's a joke in the community.
Yeah. But
okay, cool.
Even more than us just doing it ourselves, the plan is to create a kind of framework where all these African wallets, like every country in Africa has wallets, big, small, medium. We want to get all of them using it too, because then we can get all these, walled off gardens, not just using Bitcoin, but using Lightning. And then we'll have instant, almost free payments. And that's the key. It can't just be Paxful. We want Paxful and everyone else involved in this as well. So that's the play, guys. It's not just Paxful. We want to bring in the entire ecosystem, especially in Africa and India as well, in on this almost at the same time. But, we'll take it piecemeal as well.
I love it. Shout out to Lynn Alden, who I know has been on Clubhouse. She joined fairly recently. She's been doing some really great macro research in terms of the macroeconomic climate, but also on Bitcoin and Lightning. And she's working on a network effects article and the idea of Metcalfe's law that as each individual user joins a network, its value increases exponentially. So I think the point you're making, Ray, is exactly that. The more people, the better, and the more adoption, the better. And it actually helps everybody. It grows the pie in the ecosystem, in the community. And the nature of both Bitcoin and Lightning is because it's open source, because it's interoperable. You don't need to get permission from some bank or some government to build on it. At the end of the day, this is an open monetary network. It's open source money.
Absolutely, and I have a feeling that it's not going to be the big whales that are going to adopt Lightning. There's $20, $30 $100 fees don't mean much to them, but it's going to be people that deal in smaller volumes, especially emerging markets. I have a feeling they're going to be the ones that lead Lightning adoption. I can't think of anything more beautiful and more poetic.
I'm all about that. I love it.
I definitely agree with that. And, you know, Ray, I just looked at the Build with Bitcoin project that you're doing in Kenya and Nigeria, and I think it's probably one of the most important pieces of work in this field. And being from Nigeria, I just, you know, I'm so humbled that you're doing this. I can't, you know, I'm surprised that I just found out about it. And, you know, it really touches home because there are things that I'm trying to do around smallholder agriculture and, you know, smallholder farmers in Nigeria and across Africa, which have applications where Lightning as well as NFTs and stuff like that have direct application. I think that this technology is really important. And I hope that we can communicate, both you and Elizabeth and Bernard as well, and Matt as well. I hope that we can all talk and, you know, I mean, it sounds crazy, but just change the world with this stuff, because that's literally what you're doing. You guys are the Avengers. And, you know, it's 6 a.m., it's 5:30 in the morning here. And just listening to you guys, I'm so inspired. And, you know, if there's ever anything that I can do in terms of Built with Bitcoin, please let me know. You know, when you get to Nigeria, please reach out. You know, I'd love to be there on the ground when you're in Kaduna building these schools. I think it's amazing stuff, you know?
By the way, whoever says that Bitcoiners aren't nice, like, yeah, actually we're an awesome crew, but sorry, Ray, you're saying.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mohammed. I really appreciate that, brother. Please do hit me up, Ray Paxful on Telegram, Twitter, or ray@paxful.com. We should definitely be connected. Yeah, I would love to see you when we're opening up the school in Kaduna. We're going to have an awesome barbecue, and you're going to see me throw down my dance moves, brother. It's going to be also equally inspiring. Well, maybe not as inspiring, but I can throw down. I'm not just saying that. But, brother, yes, what you're doing with agriculture and NFTs, I think that's a huge area of exploration where we need some real builders and hustlers on that front. So I think I would love to talk to you about that and see, you know, what ideas you might have and how we can help you, because I would love to extend the Paxful marketplace out to this, you know, real world, you know, agriculture somehow. Most of Africa is agricultural, right? And they're all connected and they're all ready to go. I think something amazing could happen there, and we should start now.
Well, I can definitely talk about one aspect of it. I don't want to reveal everything, but the first step that I'm currently working on is trying to build out digital land registries where this is specifically tailored for farmers and agriculture in Africa. So being able to do that, especially in Nigeria, where you don't have digital land registries, whether they're centralized or not. And I think that being able to do this using you know, decentralized structures is important. Once we're able to scale that across the continent, there are much more exciting things that we can do. But, you know, digitizing that part of agriculture and being able to use that to sort of leverage other sorts of technologies, I think is a pivotal area that no one's really, you know, working very hard on. I will definitely reach out. I tweeted at you just maybe 10 minutes ago. And Elizabeth, I sent you a DM. I was asking about whether it was Stackwork. I didn't know what the website was for the Amazon Mechanical Turk thing.
Yeah, Stackwork with a K.
Yeah, it's with a K, STAKWORK.
Got you, thank you.
Mohammed, what you're doing sounds crazy, but of course, I love crazy, so nice.
Mohammed, I want to unravel that point a little bit. I heard a stat just recently by another Bitcoiner, Jonathan Mohan. He mentioned that the amount of money that is estimated to be in land that is not officially registered with any nation state on any books is about $8 trillion, possibly a lot more. So, I mean, it sounds like, you know, people that are already registered, have their deeds and land registered with their government, they don't need to turn to Bitcoin and NFTs. But people that are not, people that have no basis there already, I'm sure that's the best place to start. It really sounds right. So I'm very excited for your project.
Thanks. It's you know, I'm not an agriculturalist. I studied finance. I know a bit of computer science. This is definitely I'm definitely outside of my comfort zone even thinking about this. But I know it's something that needs to be done. I think last month in Rwanda, the government, you know, basically took ownership of land that, you know, wasn't officially registered. And they asked people to come forward. If we had these sorts of decentralized structures where you had, you know, a public-facing blockchain that people could identify the ownership of property, whether it's agricultural or whether it's residential, commercial, you wouldn't have a lot of these problems, especially in Africa and Nigeria, where, you know, the rural areas, most of these people don't even know what, you know, the land registry is, right? And I think that, you know, it's definitely important, and I will reach out, and I hope that we can talk further.
So to that end, I don't want to necessarily end the room, but it is getting kind of late. But I would like to say that I think we should have these conversations more often. I'm happy to facilitate, and maybe on the next one, I don't know if I like the term emerging markets, because if it looks like, you know, if the amount of Bitcoin activity in Nigeria is what it is, and it is, the market's emerged. It's not emerging. It's here. So we need a better name. That's all I'm saying.
We're the developed Bitcoin market.
There you
That's
go.
right.
It's been an awesome experience, everyone. Thank you so much. It's my honor and privilege to be here. Yes, we should definitely do this more often. I think we haven't even really begun to educate people in crypto about what's really going on here. So getting us all facing in the same direction and getting on this and adding fuel to this fire, it's gonna increase the momentum even further. And we're gonna be much further along in 5 years. I think we'll all be shocked.
Yeah, and the amount of currently untapped potential, I think, is incredible globally. I love that we're just like making connections on this app, making friends. Love how, like, thanks to Bitcoin Beach, who just like I DM'd on Twitter, and you're able to join and tell us about all the really cool work that you're doing. I definitely want to chat more and hear more about everything, you know, hearing from Javier, Bernard, Lucas, Matt, Ray, like, this is awesome. I really appreciate it, Ricky. It's super fun.
Heck yeah.
Thanks, guys, for including us. And Ray, would love to connect with you offline about Paxful and here in El Salvador, because it really is hard for people outside of our region to get access to Bitcoin. So I'll send you a DM.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
Mohammed, same. I'd love to connect with you a little further on the land topic.
100%. Just send me a DM or I'll follow you.
Yeah, Ray, let's talk about the gift cards, yeah? Let's move this industry forward.
I would love to hear your ideas on that, Bernard. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Seriously.
All right. Everybody here is going to connect with everybody here. We get it.
This is the true network effect of Bitcoin. This is like Bitcoin's network effect at work. I love it. Thanks again.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to try to do this again. If you're still with us in the audience and you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, click the link at the top left, join the club. We have lots and lots of rooms going on. We're going to try to do more of these more specific ones. Ray, actually, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you're a native Arabic speaker, but if you're from Egypt, I'm guessing you are. I'm looking for somebody to help with a Arabic Bitcoin room. So if that might be you or you know anyone, I would love to chat about that later. For everyone else, we have so many great rooms. We have Bitcoin in French now. We have a Bitcoin India hour. We have Bitcoin in German and Portuguese that Lucas is involved in. At the same time as this room that we were doing, we had Bitcoin in Spanish. So follow the club, check it out. There's actually a link. If you go to the club or go to my profile, there's a link. It's just cafebitcoin.club. It has the schedule of events. It has a bunch of free Bitcoin resources. Feel free to check that out. And I think that'll do it for tonight. If anybody wants to go back and listen to this all over again, we were streaming to Swan Bitcoin's YouTube channel. So you'll be able to find the video there later and go back and re-listen. Any of our speakers, any final words, final thoughts?
Shout out to you and Swan Bitcoin team. I mean, since you joined Clubhouse, you've changed the game. So shout out to you.
Thanks, Bernard. Bitnob, how did we say it the other day? Swan is just the American version of Bitnob. That's all.
Yeah, sure.
All right, I guess that'll do it, everyone. I'm going to end the room. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. See you guys. Great time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.